Okay, we're back. We're going to do the dough portion of our pizza recipe. Let's go with the ingredients. I've got a cup of whole wheat flour and 2.5 cups of regular white flour, all-purpose flour. You can go use the whole thing with all-purpose flour if you want. I like using the wheat flour. Gives it a little better taste, a little more earthy taste. What we're going to do, so I've got like a cup of the whole wheat flour in here and 1/2 cup of the white flour in here. We're going to add a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to add 1 package of the dry yeast. Put that in the mixing bowl here, and I'm just going to mix that up. So we got the salt, the yeast, the whole wheat flour, and the white flour all mixed up in here. Now we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of warm water. Just warm enough to touch, you know, a little hot, not real hot. Just pour it right in. And we need 3 tablespoons of olive oil. This is where you want to use good olive oil if you've got it. 1, 2, 3. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use my mixer here. I'm going to use my mixer here and mix it up, and I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. We've got about 1/2 teaspoon of sugar in here too. That goes in. We're going to mix this for about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes until it gets nice and good and combined. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add pretty much most of the rest of the flour until we get a nice good dough. So we'll be back in a second. Okay, we're back. We're done mixing our flour for 5 minutes here, and it's got a nice consistency to it. What we're going to do now is we're going to add in enough of the white flour by hand to make it a good firm stiff dough that we can. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. So that's really the trick to making the pizza, is to make the dough and the sauce the night before, and then when you come home you can make your pizza, you roll it out, throw it in the oven, it'll be really good. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to get this out of the way, and we're just going to start adding flour. Notice I keep the flour here on the counter just in case I'm going to need a little more, but this is kind of time consuming. This is the part that's going to take you probably the most amount of time. And it's nothing that you can't do after dinner on a weeknight. Make your dough on a Thursday night, and then when you come home Friday night, you can have pizza night. And everybody can make their own, and everybody can chip in and help out. It's really a fun thing to do. So I'm going to add most of the rest of this dough, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put it out on the counter here, and we're going to knead it for another 3 to 5 minutes. So it needs a little bit more here. And you just keep adding it as you go until you don't see any more wet spots in the dough. You seeing that okay? It's still a little bit sticky, so I'm going to add a little bit more flour. I was using this beater because this is what we have in our kitchen. If you've got one of those fancy mixers and you want to use that, go right ahead. This would be a good idea. If you have one of those, you would be just using the dough hook right now and just adding the flour as you're going with the dough hook until it basically didn't stick to the sides anymore. We don't have one of those fancy ones, so we're just doing it by hand. Okay, so it's getting to the point to where it's not sticking to the side anymore. It's not really absorbing a lot more of the white flour, so we're just going to go ahead and set this down. This is going to get a little messy now, so if you have an apron, now's the time to put it on. Alright, get back to that. And you just knead it softly until it becomes a nice dough. And if you think you need more flour, add it as you go. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to make sure I get all of the dough out of the bowl here. And after I'm done kneading it, I'll show you what we do. put it in the refrigerator and let it proof overnight. So we kneaded the dough for about 5 minutes, gave it a little bit extra flour as needed. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put it back in the bowl and let it rise. And we're going to grease the bottom of the bowl with about a tablespoon of olive oil. And put the dough in, get the top of it covered with the oil, and then put it back in like that. We're going to cover it with a little plastic wrap. Just like that. Cover it with a with a regular towel, a kitchen towel. We're going to set it off on the counter and let it sit there for about a half hour, 45 minutes. We'll come back to it. We're going to punch it down, re-knead it real quick, cover it back with the plastic wrap and the kitchen towel, and it goes in the refrigerator overnight. Okay, so our dough's been sitting for about a half hour. You can see it's risen nicely. And we're just gonna give it a punch down, re-roll it real quick. It's nice, it's starting to get stretchy, which is what you want with pizza dough. I'm just gonna re-knead it. And a quick lesson on kneading, the way I like to knead it is I hit it with the heel, fold it over, and then hit it with the heel again. And you just keep doing that, and that'll knead your dough really well. So that's all we're really going to do now. Put it back in the bowl here. We're going to cover it with plastic wrap again. Cover it with kitchen towel again. It's going to go in the refrigerator overnight. Tomorrow we'll make our pizzas.